They told me, "You'll manage on your own." I begged for help, but every door closed. Years later, when I finally stood tall on my own, they all came crawling back, too late. You ever ask for help, only to be met with a shrug and a smile like your life falling apart was just a Tuesday for everyone else? That was me, standing in my mother's kitchen, holding back tears while she stirred her tea like I had just asked her to take out the trash. I had just lost my job, 15 years with the company gone in an instant, and I was drowning in debt, my rent 3 weeks past due, my fridge mostly empty except for ketchup and expired yogurt. And when I finally swallowed my pride and asked, just this once, for a little help, she looked at me and said, "You'll manage on your own." Like it was nothing. Like I was supposed to take that line and walk back out into the storm and figure it all out by myself. I stood there, nodding like an idiot, trying to act like her words did not feel like a punch to the ribs. "You'll manage on your own." That was the phrase I would keep hearing from everyone. My brother, who had a boat and a second car just for fun, he said it too. My best friend Matt, who I had bailed out of a DUI mess 3 years ago. Same thing. My ex-girlfriend? She did not even sugarcoat it. Just laughed and said I was good at landing on my feet, then blocked my number the same day. For a long time, I believed them. I believed I could not handle this alone. I believed I needed someone, anyone, to throw me a rope before I went under. And every time I asked, every time I reached out, I was handed that same empty reassurance. "You'll manage." Like they were reading from a script. Nights became heavier. I would lie on that ragged futon in my one-bedroom apartment, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I was supposed to keep going when the world kept pulling the floor out from under me. The bills kept stacking up. I started rationing gas, food, electricity. There were days I only ate oatmeal because it was cheap and filling. I could not sleep. Not really. My brain would race with all the things I had not done yet. Rent, job applications, laundry, dishes, resume edits. I would drift off sometime after 3 in the morning, then jolt awake 2 hours later soaked in sweat, heart pounding like I had been running in my dreams. And the worst part? I started believing maybe they were right. Maybe I really was meant to do this alone. But then came the moment that changed everything. The moment that cracked something open inside me and made me see this whole thing in a different light. It was a Thursday afternoon. I had spent all morning walking from one end of the city to the other, handing out resumes, hoping someone, anyone, would take a chance on me. My shoes were soaked. My shirt clung to me from the sweat and rain. I had exactly $12 in my bank account. My stomach was growling. I stopped by Matt's place. He owed me, and he knew it. I just asked if I could borrow $20 to buy groceries. Nothing more. He barely looked up from his gaming chair. Just muttered the same damn phrase. "You'll manage on your own." That was it. Something inside me snapped, but not the way you might think. Not in anger. Not in grief. It was something quieter. It was clarity. I walked out of that apartment, drenched and exhausted. And as I stepped back into the rain, one thought rang louder than anything else. If no one was coming to save me, then maybe it was time I stopped waiting to be saved. I walked 5 miles home that night. No bus fare. No one to call. Just soaked socks, blistered heels, and my own thoughts echoing in my skull. Every few blocks, I would hear that phrase in my head, "You'll manage on your own," and I would clench my jaw just a little tighter. At first, it still stung, but the more I heard it, the more it started sounding less like a curse and more like a dare. Fine, I would manage, just not in the way they expected. That night, I made a promise to myself. No more asking, no more begging, no more letting people hold their help over me like a trophy. If I was going to climb out of this mess, it was going to be with my own 2 hands. Broken, bruised, exhausted, but mine. I spent the next morning on the library computer. That dusty little corner room with outdated monitors and humming fans became my war room. I signed up for every free online course I could find. Budgeting, freelancing, basic design, coding tutorials, resume building. I had no idea what I was aiming for yet, but I knew I had to sharpen myself into something useful, something marketable. My first job was cleaning gutters for a neighbor who paid me $20 and a ham sandwich. Not glamorous, but it paid for rice, beans, and a pack of discount toilet paper. That was a victory. Then I found an app that connected people with local odd jobs, moving furniture, assembling shelves, basic labor. I jumped on it. I was sore for weeks, my back screaming every night, but I kept going. If something needed lifting, scrubbing, or hauling, I was there. In between gigs, I studied. Headphones in, notepads full of scribbles, caffeine keeping me upright. I taught myself how to build a basic website, then how to set up an online portfolio. I listed every skill I had ever picked up, even the weird ones. Fixing appliances, setting up routers, typing fast. I made myself a one-man army. People started calling me back. At first, it was slow. One gig here, another there. But then came the day someone asked if I could do some basic logo design for their food truck. I almost said no. I had never designed a logo in my life. But something told me to try. I stayed up all night messing with free design tools and watching tutorials until my eyes burned. I submitted the mock-up half asleep the next morning. They loved it. Paid me $50. Sent me a referral the next day. That was the second victory. I started to feel it. That small, flickering thing I had not felt in months. Momentum. But just when I thought I was finding my rhythm, something unexpected landed in my inbox. An email. No subject line. Just one sentence in the body. You still need help? And it was from someone I never thought I would hear from again. The email was from my father. I had not heard from him in over 3 years. Not after what happened at my cousin's funeral, when I asked him for help with a deposit on an apartment, and he told me straight-faced that I needed to learn how the world really worked. Back then, I still had a little hope left in him. Enough to believe he might throw me a line when things got hard. But instead, he let me drown. Told me I had to toughen up. That he had no time for weak men. So when I saw that email, you still need help? My stomach twisted. No greeting. No apology. No hint of warmth. Just a sentence that dangled like bait. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I closed the tab. No response. No thank you. No begging. If this was some kind of test to see if I had changed, then I guess he got his answer. I pushed forward. Kept grinding. Days turned into weeks, and my routine hardened into something sharp and efficient. Mornings at the library. Afternoons working gigs. Evenings learning. Nights planning. And slowly, I started seeing real progress. I bought a cheap laptop from a pawn shop with my savings. No more relying on dusty library computers. I fixed it up myself. New battery, fresh install, external keyboard to make up for the busted space bar. It was mine, and it worked. I built a little site for myself. Nothing fancy, just a clean page with a portfolio and a contact form. I started pitching to small businesses in the area. Some ignored me. Some laughed. But one local bakery responded. Said they needed someone to manage their online orders and social pages. I charged almost nothing, but they loved my work. They told their friends. Next thing I knew, I had 4 small businesses relying on me. I was still broke, still scraping by, but now I had something I had not felt in a long, long time. Control. Then, just when I felt like I was finally catching my breath, my brother showed up at my door. He was not alone. Behind him stood my mother. And in her hands was a grocery bag, filled with cheap frozen meals and a bottle of dish soap. I had not spoken to either of them since that first night in her kitchen. I opened the door and stood there, blocking the entrance with my body. She smiled like we had just seen each other yesterday. He said they had been thinking about me. Then she held out the bag, like it was a peace offering. I looked down at the plastic, then back up at them. And all I said was, "Why now?" She blinked. My brother shifted his weight. Nobody answered. Because the truth was obvious. They had heard. Word had started to spread. I was getting jobs. Building something. Doing what they said I never could. They were not here to help. They were here to stake a claim. And what I said next made my mother's smile vanish. I looked my mother dead in the eyes and told her, "You do not get to show up now." The words came out quiet, but the kind of quiet that burns. She opened her mouth like she had a whole speech ready, something rehearsed and sweet. But nothing came out. My brother tried to step in, saying they just wanted to check on me, that they were proud of how far I had come. Proud. That word hit like ice. Proud. These were the same people who would not even lend me $20 when I could not afford a bag of rice. The same ones who laughed when I said I was trying to build something. The ones who told me to figure it out on my own, again and again, while they looked the other way. Now that the pieces were starting to come together, they wanted to act like it had always been love. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, keeping my voice steady. "You told me I would manage on my own," I said. "And I did. So now stay out of it." My mother looked like she had been slapped. She tried to hand me the bag again, like it would somehow undo everything. But I did not move. I just stared. Eventually, she set it down on the doormat. That was the moment I saw the crack. Not in her, but in me. For years, I had been desperate for her approval, her attention, some kind of sign that she saw me. I would have given anything for her to step up when I needed her most. And now here she was, finally doing the bare minimum, and I felt nothing. Not relief, not gratitude, just closure. I picked up the bag and handed it back to her. You do not get to be proud of something you refuse to believe in, I said. My brother started to say something, but I had already closed the door. After that day, something changed in me. I stopped looking back. No more refreshing old texts. No more replaying old conversations in my head, trying to figure out what I could have said to make them care. I accepted what they were, and what I was becoming. And what I was becoming. That part started to get interesting. A week later, I landed my first client outside the state. A friend of a friend had passed along my info to a guy in Texas who needed a website and social media setup for his auto shop. Paid up front, $300, more than I had made in a week before. And then came the best part. He left a glowing review. That review brought in 2 more clients. I was not just surviving anymore. I was building something real. That weekend, I took my first full day off in months. Walked into a diner. Ordered a proper meal. Eggs, bacon, pancakes, the works. Sat by the window, watching people rush past in the rain, and thought to myself, I made it here without a single one of them. I paid in cash. As I was leaving, my phone buzzed. It was a name I had not seen in years. And it was someone I never thought would reach out again. The name on the screen stopped me cold. Tessa. We had not spoken in almost 2 years. Not since the night I showed up at her apartment with my life falling apart, asking if I could crash for a while. I remember her face, tight, uncomfortable, like I was already a problem she did not want to solve. She let me stay for 2 nights. On the 3rd, she left a note and changed the locks. I never forgot that. Back then, she said it was not personal. That she could not be someone's lifeline. That she needed stability. At the time, I was too numb to argue. I packed what little I had and walked out without a word. Now, 2 years later, she was texting me. Her message was short, casual even. Hey stranger, just saw your site. Looks like you were killing it. Got a sec to catch up? I stared at it for a long time. The words looked like a trap, like bait laced in nostalgia. Because before everything went to hell, Tessa was the one person I thought I could count on. We had history, long nights, deep talks, plans we never wrote down but always talked about, some little house near the mountains, 2 dogs, maybe a garden. She was there when I got my first job. She was there when I lost it too. But when things got messy, she disappeared. So why now? Why reach out after all this time? I did not respond right away. I let it sit. But curiosity? It is a powerful thing. And the truth is, some part of me wanted to see her again. Maybe not to reconnect. Maybe just to find out what she wanted, and whether she had changed. We met for coffee that Friday. Same old spot we used to go to after late shifts. She walked in wearing that same olive green jacket she used to love, but her energy was different. Less carefree, more cautious, like she knew she had to tread lightly. She smiled when she saw me, but I did not smile back. She jumped right in, talking about how great it was to see me doing well, how she had been following my work through mutual friends. Said she always believed in me. I nearly laughed. Instead, I asked her what she wanted. That wiped the smile off her face. She said things had not gone the way she planned. Her job had dried up. Her new boyfriend? Gone. She was trying to pick up the pieces, and she figured maybe I could help. There it was. Help. That same word I had chased for so long. That same door I used to knock on. And now she was standing in front of me, asking for it like the past did not matter. I stirred my coffee, letting the silence settle. Then I told her something I never thought I would say. I stopped waiting for people to come through, including you. Her face went pale. But before I could stand up and walk away, she dropped something that made my hands freeze on the table. I was not the only one who walked away back then, she said. You should ask your brother what he did with the money. That sentence hit me like a steel bat to the ribs. You should ask your brother what he did with the money. I sat there frozen, coffee going cold, brain spinning. I asked her what she meant, but she just shook her head and said, It's not my story to tell. Then she left, just walked out, like she had dropped off a bomb and did not want to stick around for the blast. The minute I got home, I pulled up my old bank records. There were gaps in that stretch of time when I had hit rock bottom. Months I did not bother checking statements because there was nothing to check. But now I started combing through the history, line by line. That was when I saw it. A transfer. $800. Taken out the same day. I had asked my brother, begged him, to help me cover rent so I would not get evicted. Back then, he told me he was maxed out. Said he was struggling himself. Said I needed to stop relying on people and figure it out. But that transfer? It went to an account under his name. And that was not even the worst part. 3 weeks later, another withdrawal. This time from my emergency savings. A joint account I had opened years ago when we were still close. I had added his name so he could transfer money when I was out of town. I had forgotten all about it. He had not. That second transfer? Almost $2,000. Right before my power got shut off. Right before I sold my TV just to afford groceries. He had stolen from me. While I was barely eating, while I was begging for a lifeline. He had reached into my pocket and helped himself. And I never knew. I sat there for a long time. Hours maybe. Everything else around me faded. All I could see was that number on the screen and every conversation we had after that. Every smug shrug, every "you'll manage," every fake concern. He lied. Repeatedly. He stood in my doorway with our mother like some noble son checking on the black sheep. And all the while, he had taken from me without a word. That night, I did not sleep. I just waited. And the next morning, I showed up at his house. No warning. No text. He answered the door wearing a hoodie and boxers, rubbing sleep out of his eyes like I was there to borrow a ladder. I handed him a printout. He looked down at it. I scanned the numbers. Then he looked back up at me. No guilt. No apology. He just muttered. It wasn't like I didn't need it. I stared at him. This was blood. This was someone I grew up with, fought with, laughed with. And he had treated me like a backup plan. I turned around and walked away. But not before saying one last thing. You better hope you never need me again. And right then, I made a decision I would not take back. I would never, under any circumstance, go back to being the guy who asked for anything. Because the people I thought I needed most, they were the ones who broke me the hardest. After that morning at my brother's door, something in me locked into place. It was not rage. I had felt rage before, loud and wild and directionless. This was colder, more focused. I stopped thinking about revenge. I stopped thinking about proving anything. I just doubled down on building. Work. Save. Learn. Improve. Repeat. No more distractions. No more bitterness slowing me down. If I was going to climb, I would do it quietly. Let them all stay in the dark until the light was too bright to ignore. I expanded my services. Set up basic automations. Created templates. Taught myself to batch content so I could take on more clients without adding more hours. I took a risk and hired a freelancer from overseas. Paid her to help with graphics while I handled strategy. I was no longer just surviving. I was scaling. Then came the call. It was from a woman named Stephanie, head of operations at a startup accelerator I had once applied to and got rejected from. She said one of their investors had come across my site and asked why I was not already under their wing. I had no answer for that. She asked if I could hop on a Zoom the next morning. I said yes. That call turned into a week of follow-ups. Then came a contract. They offered me a full package, funding, mentorship, a place in their program. All of it designed to help me launch my business into something real. But the part that hit the hardest? The investor behind it. The one who had recommended me? It was someone I had once worked for, years ago, before I lost my job. Back when I was just another face in the crowd. Apparently, he had remembered my work ethic. Said I was the only person in his office who ever stayed past closing to help the janitors stack chairs. He had been watching from a distance ever since. It felt surreal. The same city that once chewed me up was now offering me a seat at the table. I signed the papers. In 6 months, I went from living on oatmeal to building a brand with real traction. I had systems, a team, clients from across the country. And then, the messages started coming in. Old friends, former coworkers, distant relatives. People I had not heard from in years suddenly remembered my name. Hey man, just saw your site. Looks amazing. We should grab coffee sometime, catch up. If you ever need help with marketing, let me know. They acted like I had always been one of them. Like I had just been on a long vacation, not clawing my way out of a pit they watched me fall into. I smiled, said thank you, then ignored them. Because the only people I had room for now were the ones who showed up when there was nothing to gain. Then, one night, just as I was finishing a call with a client in Seattle, I got a knock at my door. And when I opened it, I found my mother, my brother, and my ex standing together. Not out of love, not out of guilt, but out of desperation. They stood on my porch like ghosts from another life. My mother clutched her purse like it held dignity she had not earned. My brother would not make eye contact. And Tessa, my ex, wore that same look she had the night she changed the locks. Polished, unreadable, rehearsed. It was quiet for a long time. No one spoke. Then my mother smiled like she had just bumped into me at the grocery store. "We were in the area," she said. I nodded. Just once. Cold. Calm. Then she got to the real reason. My father had been laid off. The mortgage was in trouble. My brother's side project had failed. Tessa's lease was ending, and she had no savings left. They all needed support. They used that word, support, like it was polite. Like I would be a monster to refuse. "You're doing so well now," my mother said. "You have more than enough to help." She even used that line again. "You always manage on your own." Like it was a compliment now. Like it was proof that I owed them. I did not raise my voice. I did not get angry. I just let them talk. Then I asked one question. When I was starving, when I was sleeping in my car, when I had no job, no heat, no food, where were you? Silence. I looked at my brother. "You stole from me." He flinched. Still said nothing. I turned to Tessa. "You left when I needed you the most. And now you show up because I finally have something worth taking?" She tried to speak, but I cut her off. "No one here came for me. You came for what you thought I could give you. You came for the version of me you never believed in." Then I stepped aside, not to let them in, to close the door. My voice was steady. "I am not your backup plan." My mother's face twisted, half shock, half fear. Tessa's eyes started to gloss over. But I had no more words for them. I had already said everything I ever needed to say, with my silence, my work, my life. I shut the door. And this time, it was not about revenge. It was about peace. I stood there in the hallway, my breath slow, my chest calm. No anger. No regret. Just a quiet, undeniable truth. They needed me now, and I no longer needed them. But that was not the end. Because the very next day, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. Just 3 words on the outside. "I know everything." I held the envelope in my hand like it might explode. No return address. Just those 3 words scribbled across the front in shaky pen. "I know everything." For a second, I thought it was some prank. Maybe one of my clients messing with me. But the handwriting, it was familiar. I could not place it exactly, but it tugged at something buried. I opened it. No signature. No greeting. Just a single paragraph, tight, cramped, written like the person had been scared someone else might read it. It said, "Your brother took more than you know." The joint account? That was not the only one. Ask about the college fund. Ask about what was left behind after your father's accident. You think they only turned their backs on you. You don't know half of it. But I do. And I have proof. My hands went cold. That college fund, my parents always claimed it never existed. Said it was a myth, something they wished they could have set up. But I remembered things differently. I remembered overhearing them talking once when I was 13, arguing about whether it should go in my name or stay under theirs until he's older. And the accident? My father had walked away from it with a limp and a chunk of insurance money. That much I knew. What I never knew was where that money went. Now someone was telling me the truth had been buried right along with the trust. I spent the rest of the day digging through old files, email archives, bank statements, even the dusty lockbox my father once kept under his bed, now in storage, buried beneath the weight of everything I had tried to forget. And there it was, a ledger, tucked between expired documents and a moldy yearbook. The entries were old, most dated over a decade ago, but I recognized the names, the transactions, the slow, methodical draining of every account that had once been meant for me. The college fund? Real. It had been set up by my grandfather. 5 figures, gone within months after he died. The insurance payout? Spent on my brother's failed business ventures. Equipment, gear, travel, all under the label of family investment. I sat on the floor of that storage unit until my phone died and the sun disappeared. I had spent years wondering if maybe I had imagined the neglect. Wondering if I had exaggerated it. If maybe they did care, but were just bad at showing it. But now I had proof. It was never about being bad at showing love. It was about never having the intention in the first place. They did not just fail me emotionally. They robbed me, financially, physically, completely, and then lied to my face while I starved. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw that ledger into the nearest fire and pretend it never existed. But instead, I did something else. I scanned every single page. I organized the files. And I sent a copy to one person. Tessa. No message. No explanation. Just the truth. She had asked what went wrong. She had tried to come back into my life, pretending it was just distance or timing. Now she would see what I had actually survived. The lies. The theft. The quiet betrayal that happened long before I ever failed. But as I hit send, one more message came through. This time from a number I did not recognize. It read, "Meet me. I have the rest of the story." The message was short. "Meet me. I have the rest of the story." No name. No details. Just an address. A diner on the edge of town I had not been to in years. I almost ignored it. But something told me not to. So I went. It was a foggy morning. Gray light poured through the windows, streaking across cracked leather booths and chipped coffee mugs. The smell of grease and burnt toast hung in the air. I walked in, scanning the tables, until I saw her. Stephanie, my father's old accountant. She used to come by our house once a month when I was a kid, always with a briefcase and a notebook too full to close. She looked older now, thinner, with deep-set eyes, but her presence was exactly the same. Controlled, professional, quietly dangerous. I slid into the booth across from her. She pushed a manila folder across the table. "I am breaking protocol by showing you this," she said, "but I should have done it years ago." Inside the folder were pages, copies of emails, check stubs, handwritten notes, all connected to accounts I had never seen before. And there it was. My name. Over and over. Accounts opened in my name. Money moved around using my identity. Funds drained, redirected, and scrubbed clean. All while I was barely scraping together change for groceries. Stephanie explained the rest. My father had set it up when I was still in high school. Told her it was to teach me financial responsibility. She admitted she had her doubts, but trusted his judgment. She was paid well to stay quiet. After the accident, everything escalated. Accounts were emptied under the guise of medical expenses and loans. But the spending never stopped, because it was never about survival. It was about control. Control over me. Keeping me dependent. Keeping me weak. Making sure I never reached high enough to outgrow them. I sat there, holding that truth in my hands. It should have crushed me, but it did not. Because I had already survived the worst parts. Without their help. Without their money. Without their permission. I had built something stronger than trust. I had built freedom. Stephanie slid me one last document. "This clears everything," she said. "Your name is clean. The rest, that is up to you." She stood and left without looking back. I walked out of that diner, the fog lifting, the sky starting to clear. For the first time in my life, I felt light. A week later, I got another knock on my door. This time, it was not family. It was a man in a suit, representing a venture firm interested in acquiring my company's platform. He offered a number I never thought I would see next to my name. I shook his hand, and I said yes. 2 months later, I packed my things and moved out of the apartment I had clawed my way through. Bought a house in the hills. Quiet, peaceful, with enough space to breathe. And one morning, I opened my inbox to find a message from my mother. Just one line. "We're proud of you." I did not respond. Because the truth is, by the time they came around, I had already let them go. And I realized something. All that time I spent begging to be seen, to be supported, to be saved, I never needed any of it. Because I had already learned the one thing they never wanted me to know. I was never meant to be like them. I was meant to outgrow them. And now? Now I am free.